So, obviously, prior to the local elections, there was a lot of pressure on Boris Johnson to go. I mean, a lot of pressure. Even before he got his fine, and then, of course, he got his fine, he's had even more pressure put on him to go. We had the local elections. That pressure has now increased. We have, I've said this before, we've been here before where, any other politician, if it wasn't Boris Johnson, he would have left by now. But Boris Johnson, again, has very much said he's going to stay very well put. So the question I've asked you a lot many times: when do you think he's going to go? Like I say, let me know down in the comments. When do you think he's going to go? And of course, we have a Wakefield by-election coming up. As far as I'm aware, it's still not been announced yet. As far as I'm aware, it might have been. I might have missed it, but it's still probably at least a couple of months off before we have it. But that by-election becomes so important, because there should be an electoral pact put in place. Look, if you're a Lib Dem and you're a Green and you live in the Wakefield area, the only way you have of at least guaranteeing and putting some serious pressure on Boris Johnson to go is by voting Labour. I know a lot of you don't want to do that for reasons called Keir Starmer, which again we've talked about are ridiculous. But if you really want Johnson to go, then you have to vote Labour in that by-election. It will put even more pressure on Boris Johnson to go, because again, this is one of the fabled red wall seats. Because if it is true that there has been a WhatsApp group set up called the Red Wall Preservation Society by these Red Wall MPs, who are again terrified of being sort of one-term MPs, then this is how you get them to put more pressure on Boris, because these guys sort of are seen as sort of owing Boris Johnson the reason for their current, situation in Westminster, and they are sort of very hesitant to turn on Boris, but they have also been some of his loudest critics at the same time. So I leave it to you, people of Wakefield. Like I say, when you go to that by-election or election, make sure you are, again, voting Labour on that day, because if you do, and you do get, Labour in, and they do send a very clear message, then it's certainly going to put pressure on Boris Johnson. But another thing, of course, very interesting thing, of course, is happening in and around Brexit, because again, this is one of the seats that voted quite heavily for Brexit. And interestingly enough, when obviously a lot of the news organizations have been doing the rounds, there is one thing that is coming out very loud and clear. Voters in that area are very, very disillusioned about Brexit. And it's obvious the reason why, because promises were made sky high that not only the Conservatives, but even the Leave voters at that time are just not ever going to be able to deliver on. So let's go find out a bit more about what's going on here, because this could play out quite interestingly, not just here, but maybe across other of these constituencies that are also voted Brexit back in 2016. So before we do that, please do remember to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And also down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, there are the YouTube memberships as well as the YouTube thank you button as well. And thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. So on with this. This comes from the London Economic with the title of Wakefield voters say they feel disillusioned about Brexit. Again, this is, Boris Johnson's big flagship of the 2019 was get Brexit done, levelling up, global Britain. Like, those are the main key things. And he's sort of failing all on them. And if you are a PM and you are failing on your key flagship promises, you're going to have a lot of very nervous MPs trying to answer these questions about why some of these things didn't happen. in their areas. And trust me, when we've said, well, I can guarantee this will be coming up at this point. We voted Tory. You told us you would, give us the cash that we'd get all this stuff, and you haven't delivered. Why haven't you delivered? But anyway, so on with this. Like I say, it comes on London Economic. Title of Wakefield voters say they feel disillusioned about Brexit. Voters in Wakefield are reportedly feeling disillusioned about Brexit, with some expressing regret that they backed the divorce from the European Union back in 2016. Incredibly interesting. Like I say, if this starts to spread, this is fantastic for us. People are very much, pro rejoining and starting like a rejoin movement. And if you could even signal that, a winning strategy was to rejoin in this area, that could have some big political repercussions, almost certainly. So the Red Wall seat will be contested in a by-election this year after the Tory MP Imran Khan formally quit Parliament after being convicted of sexually assaulting a boy. Khan announced his intention to resign on April the 14th, but did not complete his formalities until last week, meaning that he received his full taxpayer-funded salary for the last month. Again, very, very bad of him to do that. But he's a Tory MP. Of course he's gonna get paid. So he's now obviously been appointed steward and the bailiff of the 300 the 300s of the Chancellery by the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, one of the formal mechanisms for an MP to quit the Commons. Of course, in 2016, Wakefield constituents did back the UK's decision to leave the EU by a whopping 66.4%. But according to Sky News reports, and many people are starting to regret their decision. So this is a tweet from one of the reporters. So having spent a few days in Wakefield, the by-election is going to be a tough one for the Tories. One of their issues is that people are feeling disillusioned about Brexit. People who voted for it are telling us they regret it. One of the PM's biggest selling points is starting to seem like a weakness. Again, very, very fascinating. We'll have to see how this sort of plays out, but this is something that we should be taking advantage of at this moment in time. And just a couple of weeks ago, I said, hey guys, Brexit supporters who come out and say, I made a mistake in 2016 backing Brexit, they need to be brought into the fold and they need to be welcomed into the fold, not ridiculed or say, haha, you made the wrong choice. We should be welcoming them very much into the fold and bringing them into sort of the movement. That's what we need to do, because if we are to overturn, again, the 2016 referendum, we need many of those people to change their minds on that. So, of course, in the 2022 local elections just held last week, Labour increased its majority in Wakefield Council and in the West Yorkshire by winning at least 45 seats against 13 for the Tories, 3 for the Liberal Democrats, and 2 for Independents. Louise Haigh, Labour's Shadow Transport Secretary and MP for Sheffield Heeley, said that the outcome for the local vote was indeed promising signs for the party's chances in the by-election, and I'd agree. The results of the vote are there's a vote of confidence in the Labour Party will help deliver a fresh start for Wakefield and close a chapter on 12 years of Tory failure in Wakefield. So, very interesting, and as I said before, very, very much worth keeping an eye on. These types of seats and these types of by-elections can be very clear indicators of what might be big issues going forward into a general election. And of course, you don't know what the big issues going into a general election are. Like I say, remember Theresa May's 2017 general election that she called. Everyone was sure this was going to be a Brexit election. That's what it was going to be about. But it wasn't. It was about heating for pensioners. That was the big issue of that general election, not Brexit. And everyone thought it was going to be Brexit. So say what are going to be the big issues for the next general election. This might offer some insights into what this could be, but this also comes up as a massive opportunity for Labour to really start to build on, oh, they promised you this. If you voted for Brexit, you'd get this, this, and this, and everything would be all wonderful and fantastic. Well, again, unfortunately, you were lied to, because to really do that, these are the policies that they need to do. Well, we're going to actually do them. And that it does involve spending a whole lot of money, which the Tories are going to be heavily against. So one of the things I would definitely love to see Labour do, which they have been doing for the past couple of manifestos, is do a fully costed one. Because obviously we've seen this time and time again. Whenever Labour manifesto comes out, they've just gone, ha, how are you going to pay for all this stuff? And in the past, it has been a really easy way for whoever's being interviewed just to hand wash whatever policy Labour's coming up. Say, it is a good policy, but how are they going to pay for it? Well, if you've got a fully costed manifesto, this is how we're going to pay for it. So I would hope that they would do that and show how they can indeed achieve these very 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 ambitious aims. And Labour has to learn, if it really is to get in, it has to be ambitious about the policies and what it wants to achieve, and not shy away from being ambitious, as we've talked about before. And even Ed Miliband had a very very good speech, what was it, a couple of months ago now, on that, and how Labour has to be ambitious if it wants to get back into and regain power. So, as always, like I say, definitely something to keep on. And don't worry, we'll be keeping an eye on the Wakefield by-election to see which way is going on there, and following the reporting that comes out about Wakefield, because again, it will be very, very interesting to follow. But as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and an organization link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, well, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel that way. And of course, we'll see you all next time.